channel Enjoy Watercolour Painting. I'm Diana and I paint in this lovely gallery in southwest France. Today I'm going to share with you another painting project. The photograph, the inspiration for this picture I took, well, several years ago actually, and it's an image of the Beauly Firth in the north of Scotland on a cold, snowy February evening just at sunset. I'm going to use transparent watercolours to create this luminous effect, and I have my paints and my tubes of paint organised here ready to start. I'm going to help you to distinguish between transparent and opaque watercolours as well with the brand that I use, which is Winsor Newton. So come with me and let's paint. On the reverse of the tubes of watercolour paint that you can see, there are little squares, one silver square, a black square in the middle, and then a square which is half black and half silver. This denotes the degree of transparency. The tube on the left is permanent rose, which is very transparent. In the middle we have an opaque colour, and at the end semi-opaque. We have a piece of Arches watercolour paper and my paints are ready on the palette. All transparent colours, transparent yellow with transparent orange, permanent rose and French ultramarine. There's also some Winsor blue red shade on there and Payne's grey, but we're not going to use them at the start. The image, of course, goes from light to dark, and we have great contrast on this image with the sun setting slowly over the hills. And first of all, I'm wetting the paper thoroughly, the usual 300 gram Arches watercolour paper, and I'm using the mop brush to wet it brilliantly wet. Now I'm spotting on the transparent yellow. Just let it run and use the paper just to flow the yellow across in the line where on the location of the yellow sunset. Now I'm going to the blue palette, combination of permanent rose and ultramarine blue. Just spotting the colour in. This is just the basis, just the distribution of colour that I'm trying to achieve at the moment, not trying to make it anything exactly like the image, just to give us the general distribution of colour. I can use the brush to spot some colour in because as you see the sky's dappled and there's light and shade. This is a very beautiful diffused picture with lots of flashes of light as the sun goes down, and this is a random application of paint to start off with. Putting in the orange now just on the limit of the yellow. Paper stays nice and wet, and now I can tilt it and let it flow, which will give me a more natural look. If there are some dry areas, don't worry, we want that dappled light. We don't want it to be all over the same texture. Now, the picture is a little bit drier. We've just had a few minutes pause, and I'm going back to my blue palette to spot in more colour for the dappled clouds. This is quite random, quite enjoyable, because the water will carry on changing the effect as we go. Because I'm using ultramarine, the colour will split as well, and we'll see flashes of pink in the mix, because ultramarine is a granulating colour as well as being transparent, and so it's a lovely colour to use for an interesting sky. Just move it a little again. letting the water flow the paint always gives a better effect. And because I've got that hint of pink in the mix, then when the blue meets the yellow, it won't turn green because it's slightly violet. It's magic, really. Now I'm using the smaller brush to spot in some more colour, but it will still move because the paper's still damp. Speeded the video up, of course. I think it's too tedious if I do it at normal speed. Sorry if my throat's a little bit croaky. Just had a cold and it's left me with a voice which isn't working very well. But I hope you can still understand. Now I'm putting colour on at the bottom of the picture and in a more horizontal way, because we have the water of the Firth, the Scottish Firth, which is quite high up in the north of Scotland, and it was a very cold evening and the snow was lying by the side of the coast. This is the atmosphere I want to try and convey. Adding just a hint of where I want the hills to be in the background, just defining it a little bit there. And now it's partially dry, but I want to take out some of the colour again to create this feeling of dappled clouds. I'm just using a tissue, just slightly damp, and very gently letting it absorb some of the colour. And because the reflection of the sky is in the water of the Firth, I'm letting the amount of tissue take out some colour there. But you only need to apply a little bit of pressure. You don't want to be too heavy on the paper at this stage because it's vulnerable, because it's wet, and you can soon damage the surface of the paper. I think we're about there with that. Now I'm going to start with the contrast, and for this I'm using two opaque colours, Indian Red, which is totally opaque, and Payne's Grey, which is semi-opaque. I have a different palette, as you see. I'm going to mix the two, and this is what is going to create the contrast and emphasise the luminous transparent colours that we've used already. I have used a ruler to get my horizon line straight, but not with pencil, just using the brush. And the stronger colour is on the left of the picture, so I've applied the Payne's Grey Indian Red mix quite strongly on the left and diluted it further on the right, because the hills on that right hand side are further away, so going to be paler. And now I'm going in with stronger colour to give me the reflection and all the contrasts that we're looking at. It's very important to try and get the symmetry at this point, and it's good to turn the painting a little, have it vertical so that we can get the symmetry right. Once we have the shape, we can go in with stronger colour and a bigger brush to create more contrast. And the colour will just follow the lines of the wet area, so we can even spot it in and let it run. Now you see how the transparent colours become more vibrant, more luminous, because we have those darker, opaque colours over the top, creating the detail. You can use the brush to take colour off as well if the dark colour has gone too far to the right. It's a good time to add more colour when the area you're working on is still damp. I have to think about the area of water now, which, as we've already said, is the reflection of the sky. So I don't want it to be too solid. I want to keep that luminous quality. So I'm working with very pale paint at the moment. Once it's damp, I can add colour to darken it. But for a start, you start pale and go darker. Just washing down with pale colour to begin with. We don't want it to be too consistent, too all over dark. So I'm missing little areas and leaving them dry. And so this will give me that dappled look to the reflection. And we see that bottom right hand corner is darker. So I get the chance to put more colour in. Just spotting some in now. And it will only go where the paper is wet, and it has a hint of violet. Just let it move. You can see the drier areas where the paint isn't going, and this is good because we don't need to worry about those areas. They're not going to be full of paint, they're going to stay as a contrast. Just washing back towards the colour encourages the paint to run into these areas so we don't have any net lines. We have a gradual tone, a gradual dilution of colour. It's lovely to paint like this. The water helps you out, and I have the dark shoreline, which is a rocky shoreline, which, because the paper is wet, I'm not going to get too harsh a line, and there's going to be some blending happening. So using quite a small liner brush, we can start to get that in place. And in the far corner, the right hand corner, you see the rocky shoreline with the snow lying between the rocks. Just adding a bit of shading there. And more darker colour. Now it's really coming alive and we see the contrast. Adding a little bit more orange and hot colours to the shady part. Just letting it blend. We put the colour on quite strong and then use the water to blend it with the colour that's there already. It looks a scary thing to do, but if you let the water work for you, it will work out fine. Always keeping the edges moist so we don't get a line which is too defined. And if we do get a smudgy bit, it's okay just to use the kitchen roll just to dry it so that the colour doesn't start to weep into the light, dying light of the sun. Adding even more contrast here. Again with the blue palette. You will, of course, noted now that I've turned the picture upside down. I should have mentioned this earlier, but it's helping me to really appreciate the distribution of light and shade in the sky. It kind of comes natural to me now. I do it without thinking. just so that we can see the detail without dwelling on the overall picture. And a little bit of letting the paint run is fine to do at this stage. It'll run along the damp lines and it will blend with what we've got on there already. I'm using this lovely mop brush which has the really pointy end, and this enables me to do really delicate brush strokes as well as all over washes. It's a lovely versatile brush to use. Now we can put it the right way around and see the effect, which I think we have achieved that dappled light and the contrast is there. So this is good. We're fast approaching the time when I need to let the picture dry totally to put in more contrast. Just add a little bit of orange to finish off. And here the picture is dry, and now I'm going back in with my opaque colours, the Payne's Grey and Indian Red, which makes a lovely reddish black which goes well with the subject. All the rocks and the darker areas of the rocky shoreline are needed now to add that contrast and that drama. Use the big brush now to reinforce the shoreline that I did before by adding more dark shading. And always water along the edge if you want it to blend. Taking it right up into the water. And more detail, more little rocks. It's a very rocky shoreline, and in the half light the rocks were silhouetted against the dappled light of the water. It was a lovely picture, very cold but very lovely. Now, as always with these pictures, we can do too much. We can carry on adding more light and shade, well, not more light, but more dark colour to emphasise the light. But I think really I am getting to the point where I need to stop and leave my picture to dry. And there we are. I think we'll leave it now. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and also leave any comments that you may have. I enjoy reading your comments. Till the next time, happy painting. Bye.